Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my podcast. And this week I have a very special guest. I never really thought she would make it on. I've sought after her for quite some time, and I never really thought I'd get this lucky. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, listeners. My name is Harper. I'm so excited to be here. It's always a pleasure.
But today we want to talk about, we are back. That's like the joke, guys. Like, obviously, who else did I podcast with? But
And I was here last week. If you
missed that episode, you should.
Wait, yeah. If you haven't listened, you're gonna want to go ahead and click pause really quick, and then go back and listen to last week's episode,
so you can hear how Harper's liking Arizona before
Right,
so
because you have no idea. Yeah, and just to get a little bit more comfortable with.
And it's like titled "Buy Until Proven Otherwise." Like, wouldn't you want to listen to that?
It was just awesome.
It's an intriguing title. It is intriguing. It's great. My aunt, I know she's my aunt, but she said it was great, and she has a podcast, so whatever. But today we are back, and we're just hanging out on the porch, doing our thing, and we were like, oh, what's something that we relate on a lot that we could just fucking talk about? And I was like, oh, how people, always tell us you're such an old soul, but we're literally 19, and we've been told that since we were born pretty much, and kind of not even just being told that, but just like actually living with an old soul, but being like a young person and feeling like you've kind of like lived before. I don't know if that makes sense, but hopefully if you're listening to this, you understand what we're saying. And I think this topic's really interesting because I'm
really excited.
It'll reach a certain niche of people that I can imagine. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, I know certain people in my life who I'm just like, we've even talked about this before. Like, you are also like an old soul. But then a lot of people aren't. I would say like a larger portion of like our peers are not.
And I was gonna say too, like, this is something that me and Marley have always connected on, like right when we started becoming friends. Like, we bonded over this kind of just feeling of like the mature soul and just like being a little bit too old for our age. And so I think that this is something that is just so exciting for us to talk about in like this setting, because like we've talked about it between ourselves like a million times.
Yep. So, and I feel like it's something helpful to hear, because I think sometimes it's scary to feel like you grew up really fast. And even if you did like actually grow up really fast, like just like knowing that you did, it's kind of like, oh fuck, like, did I get a normal childhood? Did I get to like have that youthfulness as long as I should have, that innocence, kind of maybe even like naive in a sense? Like, was I ever even that way? Or was I ever like, of course I was naive, but was I ever as innocent or naive or as, I don't know, like as other kids, you know what I'm saying? Like, was I ever, it's like just crazy to me how like genuinely, I don't know, unconcerned some teenagers and adults even are. Like, it's like there's just never been a thing that's happened to them ever.
Right. Yes. Just people that have been, and I mean, luckily enough, like, it's a good thing that, there are some people like this sometimes, I think, but have just been like really sheltered from, I don't know, I mean, just like a
reality.
Lot of experience. Yeah, reality. I was just gonna say like the world kind of like in general. And sort of just have maybe a little bit of like a delayed sense of street smart, but then also like that like kind of worldliness.
And I don't know, I feel like it's really hard to pinpoint what is normal, like what's a normal level of maturity and what's not, because it's so fucking situational, like, what the, like, and it's so subjective.
For, like, an age, because like you'll talk about someone and be like, oh, she's so mature for her age. And then, like, I don't know, I never really think that I, like, think about what the standard of maturity would be. I think I just know when someone's overly mature and then when somebody is
less mature than me,
is really immature. I guess I never think about, like, just, like, the normal.
Right, because what the fuck is it? Like, you don't know. Like, someone who is a lot more immature than us, they may be, like, the average. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because I feel like we are so fucking hyper self-aware.
I think that sometimes I meet people my age specifically that are probably socially and maturity-wise and developmentally exactly where they should be at a 19 years old. And I think that sometimes I'm like overly critical that they're immature.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you're just like, you don't see the world how I see the world. Like, you just like,
you haven't seen a thing.
Right. You haven't put your adult glasses on, have you yet? Like, yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit. Who am I? What I was gonna say is, like, as much as it's subjective, like what the normal standard for like maturity is at each kind of age level. It's also just like, I don't know, you never like know what anyone has been through
Right.
at all. So it's just so fucking random because it's like someone could have not been sheltered specifically, but had just like a pretty nice, like well off, lucky,
Right.
happy, you know, blessed life, whatever so far. And they just, you know, show that, but they're still like a genuine person. Like I've met people like that where I'm like, you're not sheltered, but you're not, and you're not, you know, you're probably not familiar with other drugs people your age are doing. And you're like, I don't know, you're not as like social, like you don't go out as much, but you're not like dumb. You're not like
Oh yeah, I guess
immature.
I-
Like there's like a happy medium of someone who just like isn't like super with it, but like isn't like, I don't know, but it's also so
I guess, like,
subjective.
I wasn't thinking like socially. Like I wasn't
Oh.
thinking like, yeah, the spectrum of like introvert to like drinking on the weekend for like a high school, or you know what I mean? Like I don't know. I think of it as more of like I don't know, just like an internal maturity. Like I think that like that's like the way that like they think like I gauge maturity is just
Well,
like,
I feel
you know what I mean,
I think it reflects socially as well. I'm not saying that you had to have a beer on the weekend to like be like socially mature or
right,
like
you know,
with
but I
it.
also think that like internal maturity doesn't always equate to social maturity, because I think that there are a lot of people that are incredibly mature and developed for their age, and because of that are really really introverted, and so might seem kind of socially undeveloped, but are like, I mean, like I feel like that's how like I was like when I look back at myself as like a kid, and like even like in middle school and early high school, like really just before like I graduated, like I mean that's what we're talking about today. Like I've always been a really 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 old soul, but I had never really been social. Like I was always super introverted.
Yeah, that
like
is
I never
true.
went out on the weekends and stuff. Like
But
I was always, I think, better friends with like my mom. Like I always felt like I fit in with my mom's friends and stuff when they would come over, and like the parents, than like hanging out with like a bunch of kids like my age and stuff when I was like in elementary school and like middle school and stuff, you know? So yeah, I guess I think that just like, yeah, I've never really like equated them as maturity, or like a social sense like as maturity. Like I think that like, yeah, just your social presence and your level of maturity, I don't know, maybe like just like don't intersect as much in my mind.
Yeah, I feel like I don't think that's, if you're mentally or emotionally immature or mature, that it always is the same. Like it's not coherent, like cohesive, like kind of with like your social awareness and your social maturity.
Right.
I don't always think it reflects one another. Like I don't always think it's the same, but I think
social
it can.
awareness, maybe not social presence, because I think that you have to be mature to understand like social. Like I think that that's something that I always gauge as immature, is somebody that can't read a social cue or
like
social interaction. Yes.
Yeah, that girl's a prime example.
Exactly. I think it's more that like social presence and maturity don't really like, I don't know, correlate, what's the phrase?
But I also think
I don't remember.
If you are like violently immature internally and like emotionally and like I think it can affect your social maturity.
Yes.
But I don't think it does. I don't think it always does.
Sometimes I think some of the most social and outgoing and like biggest presences of people I've ever met have also been some of the most immature. So I think there's also
1000%.
right, like the spectrum
1000%.
Like, you can have a really advanced social presence because of your maturity and because of the way that you attract people. Yes. Or
it's a Gemini trait.
You have like you attract people, you have this big social presence because of an immaturity.
Yes.
Like, I think it's a very even.
And I think they can again like be balanced. But yes, it is just so subjective of where should we be at this time in our lives. Right. And I think you and I, again, I don't think you can put a scale to it. I don't think you can label it or measure it. But I think we, as smart young women, can tell that we are a bit old soul.
Right.
And we know that the mature person, like the average 19-year-old, is a little less mature than we are. Right. Like probably more than a little. You know what I'm saying? But we're not putting like a percentage on it because who fucking knows.
Right. And like not even in like a milestone way where it's like we're mature and like, oh, we're 19, but we already have our bachelors and we already have both of them, you know, like right.
Never that.
Like, yeah, like I think that like we're
Accomplishments are so stupid. Do you know how many like
Yes.
debate and like volleyball trophies we probably got in high school that doesn't
right.
equate to anything now?
Yeah.
Like a compliment,
A compliment.
accomplishments, like as great as they feel, that'll happen at any stage in your life. Like you
Yeah.
could be like win the prettiest baby award for 10 months in a row when you're born. I don't fucking
Right,
know.
right.
Like it doesn't, there's not like a level to it. Like there's not
Right.
really like a scale. Everything's kind of different and it's all perspective and kind of like who even gives a fuck about that.
Right.
You know, so it is really emotionally, mentally, and like, you know, internally and like intuitively, like
Right.
your maturity with others,
Yes.
how you present yourself.
And while
Like,
that doesn't like maybe like put us ahead like accomplishments like we were talking about, like I think that like that is reflective of like where we are in life and the fact that like, you know, like we are where we quote unquote should be at this age, and like we're in school, we're working, you know, we, you know, living in our own place, we're established, you know, buy our groceries and stuff,
Yeah.
like, you know, like do our like adult tasks and stuff.
We just talked about kind of how the maturity scale is undefinable and very subjective, and it's like where should you be at a certain age? Who the
Right.
fuck knows? Like everyone's parented so differently, we're raised so differently. But when do you think you personally kind of first noticed that you were more mature than your peers? Like just the other kids around. Like what's the first like example you
To
remember?
be honest, like that is something that I have always been told. Like I remember being like 3 and 4 years old, and like the preschool teachers, like my Nina worked at the preschool, but then like my mom and stuff obviously would like come and like pick me up, and like the preschool teachers and stuff just like commenting on like my maturity and like just like I don't know, like my like politeness and stuff like at that age. And that was something that like my mom and like my grandma and like my parents and stuff just like always told me, was that I was like so mature. And so like I think that like I have always seen myself as mature because like I was raised by people who also always saw me as mature, and so like have always treated me as an adult and stuff, and spoke to me as an adult, and kind of like
Makes sense.
like let me in as a person and not a child necessarily per se. So like I don't know, like that is something that I've always had memories of. I vividly remember to being like, you know, 7, 8 years old, hanging out with like friends my age and stuff, and their parents being like, "Oh, you're such an old soul." Me just like gravitating towards like, you know, the like adults and stuff in the room over like, kids my age and stuff. So that is something that I feel like I've always resonated with.
But do you like have an example of like, if you were like, did you ever, because like I like do, like, I don't know if you were ever just like in kindergarten or second grade and some kid just did something and you were like, what? I don't know, because I know you've like also erased a lot of your childhood, and I have too.
I don't know. Like, I think that like I was just always like very.
You were like, well, I'm already fucking mature, so
right.
I don't remember.
Like, I think
otherwise.
I mean, part of it was that like I think that like I don't know, like I was just like a very like well mannered and like well spoken child, because like that I don't know, just like
you like you want a cup of tea,
right? Like my like Southern grandma like just kind of like beat that into me. So I was just like a very like, I don't know, I think like proper young little child. So like that was a part of it. And just like the way that like I spoke to adults, I think is like why that was commented on. It's just like I would speak to adults like adults, I think is what it is, unless like I don't know, like that they were talking.
It's like that baby on TikTok.
Yes, like fully conscious baby. Like
who wants to go to the Four Seasons? Me.
Right. Like tweets about like me like at 8 years old, like sitting around the table, like with my friends' moms, like drinking wine, like telling Sharon that she should get a divorce. Like that was me. Like that was me being
like, oh girl, no.
Right. Like giving some like that's the thing too. Like something that like I think that like is a big asset of like myself, and that like I also like have noticed as a sign of maturity in myself, is that like I think that I've always been very emotionally mature. Like I think that like I feel
like you're very understanding.
Yes, person. I was gonna say I think that I read other people's emotions very well. I think that I've always been someone that like people are comfortable as an emotional outlet in the sense. Like I think that I just have like a pretty solid grasp on like my self-awareness of like my emotions, and then like I don't know, other people's emotions and how they work and stuff. So I think like that's it too. Like I think I take pride in like my developed sense of emotional maturity, and that has always been a part of my like old soulness. Yeah,
no, that makes sense. I my example is like really short and like kind of stupid, but I don't know why. It's just like one of the only things I remember from like when I was like, I don't know, a 6-year-old or something. I just remember I was probably around like kindergarten or first grade, and I was going to dinner or something with my parents and then like a couple friend of theirs. So it was just like 2 groups of 30-something-year-old couples, and
Right.
then me, who was
Right.
like 6.
Yes, me. My like mom would just always take me anywhere. Like, and like even like now still, like she like when she goes out with her friends, like she's gonna like ask me to go.
Yes.
So like I was like always just kind of like king with the adults, and I was just kind of always used to being like the only kid around.
Yes.
And so just like feeling like, oh, like I
have to
I
level
can't
up.
be the kid. Like they can't know I'm a kid, and I'm like, well,
They can't know-
yeah, I'm like 3'6".
I'm a
and
toddler
Like,
size,
oh, they
yeah.
can't know I'm a child. Like I have to fit
3 to
in.
5 was like going with them, and I was like strapped in my car seat, like in the very back seat row, and just me in the middle. Like they're chatting it up, having some adult conversation or whatever. And I do kind of really actually remember this, which is rare because obviously I think we trauma block a lot of our childhood, but my parents have also told me about it on multiple occasions, and that this is when they knew. Like, not that this is when they knew, but like
But
it's
then
like
they were
an example. They were like,
yeah,
like she really still hasn't grown out of this. Like she is just like
Right.
an old soul. Like I don't know, because I guess they were like saying some shit, and I don't remember if it was to me or to each other, but I like interject in the conversation and I go, I literally know what you're doing right now. Like you're being sarcastic. Like don't try to like I don't know exactly what I said. I know what you're doing. You're being
know what you're
sarcastic. Like I
doing.
said that
Like,
for sure.
fuck.
And it was just so funny because I'm sure they were just trying to like make a little joke about me. That was like cute because I'm like a little 5-6-year-old. And of course my ass was like, I know you're being sarcastic. And it's not the fact that like I knew that word. Like I think obviously you pick up on words and you repeat a lot of stuff at that age. It's the fact that I knew like the concept of sarcasm.
Right.
Like, the
And
fact
being
that
able to
it wasn't
identify
true.
it in a conversation.
Right. Like
Yeah.
it was like, okay, so you didn't really mean what you just said. Like you're being a
Right.
little sarcastic.
Right.
It's like how I don't know where I learned that because they're not teaching that in first grade.
Right.
It was just like we were put on this earth with like huge heads, like huge brains. Like I don't know.
Yes.
I think I've just always had like a big ass
absorbed
little
so
head.
much. Like, yeah. And I think just like also just like a product of like being around a lot of adults and stuff, like you just kind of like learn how to act like an adult, like the way that like
Right.
adults
'Cause you're not around
speak
kids
and stuff.
acting like kids.
Right. Like I don't know, because I like have already said it. Like I was a really, really introverted kid. So I 1,000,000% spent more time with adults, especially like my mom and like my Nino and stuff. Like I would just spend like all my time and stuff with these like grown adults and stuff. So I think that I just like my social experience, like as like a young child, like was an adult experience, especially because like I said, like they viewed me as an adult and stuff and like spoke to me as an adult and stuff. Like, and so yeah.
I 100% agree with that. And then this is also like a funny question to like bounce off of that one. And because I really like drafted this, like I wrote it down and I was like, wait, is that a stupid question? But I don't think it is. Like honestly, but then I was like, fuck, it's kind of sad. But do you like remember a time period in your life where you like weren't already an adult? Like, do you ever remember being like hee hee ha ha, la la la, like woo woo, like silly?
Honestly, like this is partially maybe like an old soul thing and partially just like I don't know, like generalized anxiety disorder, undiagnosed as like a small child. But like
Ben had it.
I don't know, like as really far back as I remember always kind of like feeling like I needed to be an adult and like ready to be an adult. Like I was
ready to put the dishes away.
Right, yeah. Like I was like, all right, when can I move out? Like I'm ready. And like I was like my mom makes the joke and stuff all the time. That like they could have put me in an apartment at 12 years old and I would have been totally fine. Like,
yeah, you would have
completely self-sufficient.
I don't know where you would have worked, but
whatever. Right? Yeah, like,
you would have lied and said you were 14. You got that like 14-year-old Pizza Hut job. Like I don't know.
Like I actually could have figured it out. So I don't know. Like I think that I really always have just had this internal pressure or like
sense
desire,
of responsibility, kind of
sense of responsibility. Yes, I feel like I've just always had to be an adult, but also because like again, like I was viewed as an adult. I think so. I just was like,
it's awesome, and it can kind of affect your childhood negatively.
Right. Like
but,
I love it. Like
yes.
I think that like I don't know. I'm so grateful for the way that like I was raised and stuff, and I love that I had just always been seen as an independent and as a person and have just been respected and stuff as like a child. But yeah, I think that like I mean obviously like the way that I kind of manifested that maybe was a little bit negative, and that I just like put a lot of pressure on myself, just like a lot of anxiety, for responsibility. But again, you don't even know it's anxiety when you're that young, right? You're just like it's this huge like sense of responsibility.
I
just am always a little bit panicked.
What is this?
I just feel like there's always something wrong. Like
and you don't know what it is.
Right.
Yeah. This is kind of another silly little question, but it's not silly. I feel like I have an answer to it as well.
Right.
So like if we think about people that we know from high school, from whatever college, that kind of grew up or turn out to be kind of assholes, just like not great people.
Yeah.
Do you ever reflect back on when you knew them in their younger years and kind of like, did you ever notice traits in them that alluded to them being assholes, if that makes sense? Like, I feel like some people, like,
yeah,
you can just
100%.
see their
Yes.
immaturity.
But there are also some cases too where it's like people that like I knew as kids that I thought would have turned out really differently.
Yeah, and they
it
disappoint.
Yeah, and that they did turn out to be assholes, and so like those are sad because I was
Yeah.
like, oh, like whatever I knew you when we were 9,
Like, our moms were friends.
right. But yes, yeah, I can think back to, I don't know, just like a vivid memory of
Oh yes, yes.
yeah, calling me a bitch on the playground when I was in 5th grade.
Calling you a bitch on a playground is crazy.
Yes, and he was a 6th grader and called me a bitch.
And now he cheats on all his girlfriends.
Right,
so.
and I was just like, what? Like, what did I do?
Immature.
Like, I'm 10.
Right, like, bitch, what?
Yeah, we know how you
Bitch
turn
who?
out
Bitch
now.
you. Like,
yeah,
fuck
bitch
you. Yeah, no, I
Take
feel
off
like...
Riz party every day or go back to high school with the people that you graduated with.
I feel like I just remember this is going to be a real particular trait. I don't know how to explain it, and I feel like it's most common in female friendships. But like, fuck, man, I don't really talk about them on here anyway. But in my female friendships as a young girl, and some of them, I'm sure I'm still friends with some of them now distantly,
Right.
but most of them I'm probably not friends with anymore.
Right. No, but I would say that like 90% of people that I was friends with as a child, I'm distant friends with now, and like that
That's
I like
sweet.
love. Like I'm like, okay, like at
Like,
least
not
we're
me,
like
but that's so
distant.
Oh yes, I was gonna say, and female friendships like around the middle school, high school age, even like younger too, definitely elementary school as well. I remember having friends, like I said, most of them I'm not still friends with, or if we are, we're probably cool, but we're distant. But I feel like I had some like toxic short-term friendships, and the reason they were toxic and short-term is because I think a telling trait of a young girl who is just like toxic, scary, like insecure, like red flag, like not a good person is like they literally just like seem like they are jealous and envy you in like every way possible. Like it's so weird because I remember having friendships where like girls would try to one up me to like our random group of guy friends that we'd been friends with for years, and like neither of us were trying to like fuck on. No one was like with these people. Like there would just be no genuine reason for her to even act that way. And I still know girls who would just belittle others around them just to try to make themselves feel good. And now as like a woman, I like know it's an insecurity thing. I know it's projection.
I think that like
but
it's envy partially, but that a lot of it is like insecurity.
Yes,
which, like
but you can't clock that at a young age.
No.
You don't know what that is. You're just like, she hates me. Like she fucking hates me. It gets like beefy when you're young and you don't know. And then when you get into high school, I think it figures itself out. But when you're a young girl and I don't know, other girls are just putting you down all the time. I feel like I used to be really like, what the fuck?
Maybe that's just because something that like I was taught. Like I was always taught that like if people like treat you poorly for no reason, like it's a reflection of them. Like, and that was kind of something that, like I was doing. So like that was always the perspective that I think that I had. And it's like when kids and stuff would be like, I don't know, like mean to me at school. Like I would just be like, it's not because of me, like, you know, like they have something wrong with them. But it's something that I've always like had and like believed because it's something I was taught.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I was definitely taught like I was literally told as a kid, like, if people are mean to you, they're just jealous of you. But you know my my mother.
Right. I was gonna say, I was like, that's two different
yeah, they're different.
Right. I think another reason that I was like told that I was mature by adults was because I was such a sensitive kid.
Yeah.
And like not always just towards things for myself, like always. Like I was such a crier and stuff when I was little, and I was so sensitive. But I was so sensitive, I think, about like other people and stuff too. And
you're an empath.
Yes. Like I don't like to self-proclaim empath because I think that a lot of times people that call themselves an empath are usually just narcissists. Fine line between an empath and narcissist. So I appreciate it as a compliment. But that is also why I kind of always had the perspective that if people are being mean to me, like I kind of just always felt bad for them. Like I was like, yeah, like there's like I don't know why
that's
you're
awesome
taking it out on me, but like, you know, there's something wrong with you that like, you know, is making I don't know, you like what do you mean for like no reason and stuff. Like,
but I think it's awesome that you knew that at a young age, because what I was gonna say is I was very much taught that. But like I think when I was young, like especially like elementary school, like at least until 6th or 7th grade, I didn't understand that people were, and I'm a smart woman. Like I just like didn't understand that people were jealous or insecure or whatever they were going through something and projecting on me. I didn't understand any of those mental concepts that young. So I was just like, oh fuck, like these people are just like crazy. But I'm saying like regardless of if I understood that they were projecting or if I just thought they were like crazy and actually trying to stir beef with me, like whatever I thought it was, I knew I didn't fuck with it. And I knew that like it wasn't okay. Like I knew it was a red flag from a young age, like which is what my initial like question kind of was like what was like something, a trait you could see in people when they were younger and then they like grew up to be kind of like, and you're like, oh yeah, I fucking knew. I fucking knew it. But I feel like yes, it's definitely the projecting. It's like the insecurity. It's a lot of traits narcissists have for sure. And I think a lot of people, I think sadly, narcissism is like larger than we think it is. Like I don't know how many like people like are actually narcissists, but I feel like it's like a decent amount of people in the world. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. I think
no one really talks about how many people, I think
also just because like we are in the first kind of age of like real like personality diagnoses and stuff. And so like we've kind of always just labeled people as narcissistic.
True.
And there's a very fine line between a narcissist and someone who's narcissistic. And that I think that there is a lot more people out there in the world that are narcissists, like have narcissistic personality disorder, opposed to just like narcissistic as a personality trait.
Dude, it says 0.5% and 5% of people.
Between 0.5.
Are you kidding me? That's like no one.
Okay, well, think about how many people are in the United States. That's millions.
5% of 7 billion. 1, 2, 3.
That's in the whole world. How many people are in the United States? 332 million.
Divided by 5? No, 0.05, right?
5.
6.64 9?
Like 60 million. There are 60 million Americans. That's a lot.
That's a lot of narcissists, I guess. Like, I thought it was like 1 billion. 1/7 of the world.
Well, like in comparison, well, it would be more people if there were more people in the world. There are a lot of these people.
Yeah. I think also a good question is, I never really thought about this until recently, and then I was like, oh, fuck, do I even want to think about that? But how do you think being an adult since you were like 4 years old affects you as like a 19-year-old? I feel like it affects you in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I feel like, honestly, for me, it's manifested that I feel like now I'm like behind. Like, you know, like I like even like now that I am an adult, I feel like I'm looking for like whatever the next version of adult is. Like I think that like this kind of adult is what I'd always picture when I was like a child. Like I pictured my adult version as like 18, 19, 20. And now that I'm here, I'm kind of like, okay, I don't know what adult is next for me, but like I know.
Like you are adult. Enjoy adult.
Well, yeah. But I mean, just like, the same thing, like that responsibility to kind of like feel older and like feeling older where like I am. Yeah. Like,
but you can't really feel much older than you already do.
But like where I am, like I'm just like, oh, like I feel like, I don't know, right now I should be like fully financially independent. Like I should be totally moved out, like full-time job, like whatever.
No one should have to help support me at 19.
Yes.
My first year out of the house.
Yeah, literally. I shouldn't need a dime from a single other person.
That's not realistic.
Right. It's not realistic. I have lived not at home for less than a year.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so I'm like, okay, it's okay.
And you're a full-time student.
Right. Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be in comparison to my peers. And like,
and even
that type of sense.
Not in comparison to your peers. You hear that phrase that's like, you are exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yes.
Because people go on such different paths. Like, you know, someone maybe at cosmetology school, someone maybe just working, someone maybe just sitting on their couch because they're depressed. Like, who knows?
Right. Yeah. I'm where I feel successful and stuff, but I do still feel an internalized pressure to just kind of like be ahead or like be doing more.
For sure.
Just because I've always just wanted to be older than I am. And then I hit these ages. Like, I don't know. I just remember like 16 was like this, like, I don't know, ideal age and like my brain and stuff for like years. Like I was just like so ready to be like,
because you could drive. Yeah.
And then I was 16 and I was just like, oh, I don't feel like, what's next? Like now I don't like I don't feel 16.
Like, where's my husband? Where's my full-time job?
16. Right. Yeah. Like I feel like I have this issue with like I always look at people older than me, and then once I hit that age, I feel like they were so much older. Like I think that like this is so insane. I think when I say this to people, especially because like if you know me, like guys, like I'm 6 foot tall, like I have like 8 tattoos, like I don't look like a child.
No.
But sometimes I'm like by myself at the grocery store, and I'm like, the cashiers are gonna like look at me and be like, "Where's her mom?" Like they're gonna think that I'm like 14 or something. Like I just feel like I like don't.
What? You're so capable. Why do you feel like someone's gonna ask you where your mom is? Like you're so capable.
No, not in like a capability sense. Like I'm just like other people don't perceive me as an adult. That's what it is. Yes, I think
everyone perceives you as an adult. Like, you're a violent adult. Like you were an adult out of the womb.
Yeah,
I think you have a smart face.
Well, thank you. That makes me feel good.
Like you're not a dumb blonde. Like some of it. Just kidding, guys. I'm not a dumb blonde.
No.
It's like I love you, but I don't understand why you would think people think you are a child.
I don't know. Oh my god, you know that person on TikTok that's like, "Hi, I'm Bunny." Hi.
No, I don't know that
it's
person.
like this person with like honestly like
Weird
TikTok
person.
like confirmed that like they were faking it, so like I don't feel bad making fun of it because like I don't know, like they don't really like have it.
They said they had like split.
Like yes, like we're like saying that they had like a system of like 50 different like personalities and stuff, and made a TikTok like of introducing them.
So fucked up.
He just like did like different voices and was like did one like a British accent and was like, "Hello, like aren't they?" Yeah.
So
Right.
bored. How bored do you have to be to make 50 personalities? That's fucking crazy.
Because, like, I mean, dissociative identity disorder is one of like the most like severe personality
DID.
disorders. Like, it takes like severe traumas for that to be like, you know, like unlocked and like manifested into people.
Wait,
And
really? You can't just be born with
you're
DID?
not born with it. No, it's not something that you're born with. So DID, you only get DID from major traumatic events. So people have it from like repeated childhood
Assault.
like abuse and like sexual abuse and stuff primarily, or just really prolongated like violence or something, maybe like just like really horrible like
being
prolonged,
groomed, being like kidnapped.
like kidnapped, like those
Like
types
kept
of
in a
experiences.
cage.
Yes.
Because how do you? I don't expect you to know the answer to this, but I'm just inquisitive.
How does it work?
Like what chemically is DID? Like what is like you're going to have a different personality because you're that fucking
so what it is
pain.
so
Like,
what
I don't
it is,
know.
it's not like a chemical split. It's
Okay.
like a way, it's a coping strategy. So people,
Wow.
it's a part of like dissociative identity disorder is what it's called. So it's like dissociation is one of the primary categorizations. And it's somebody who is so severely disassociated from like their lives and specifically their trauma that they like create, and I guess
A false
create
reality.
is not the right word. Yes, kind of like these it's like alter egos build themselves as a way for these people to like escape. Like it's like they kind of just like will go into like these different alter egos and stuff like in themselves as a way to like escape their trauma, and like it's a disassociation. So like people's alters is what they'll call it. People's alters will vary in like age, sex, personality. They all have different personalities, different names. It's really common though that people have like very young alters.
Yes.
Because a lot of this comes from childhood abuse.
trauma.
Yeah. So they'll and like it's a
Psychology
host.
makes so much sense.
Yeah, a host alter is what they call the one that fronts, that like presents itself
the
the
host,
most.
yes.
So the host is like the person's like, you know, the person's body, or yes, that it is. And then there's like a fronting
it's in Get
alter.
Out, like the host. Like
A
he's
little
the
bit,
host.
yeah, he's like the host. But then there's like a fronting alter, and that's like the main alter personality that these people will take on. And a lot of times it is like a children, like 4 or 5 years old and stuff. And so then they'll act and like will be developed at that age. Like then they like mentally and stuff like are that age.
You watch Split, right?
Yeah, but I mean, like, yeah, it's like a good movie stuff. It's a horror movie, but however I developed all of this like knowledge, I don't know really where I learned all of this. It's just kind of like out
You
my
were born
ass.
with it.
Yeah, I guess. But that's just like a really, I guess, like a really like poor representation, because it just like
No, it's
shows like very like like it's like extreme.
It's a
like
murder scene. Yeah,
right,
of
like
course.
like you won't have different strengths and stuff. Like you have the same
Oh my God,
body
no.
capacity that you do. Like it's still
It's
your
not
body,
realistic
right.
at all. Like it is very, very fictional. But I was just gonna say, that guy has a prominent alter that they show is like a 5-year-old.
Yes,
That's just what
yes,
I not that
yes.
anything else is that
Yes,
accurate, because it's very
yes.
violent. But I guess what I was asking you answered it very well. But then also on top of that, I guess I'm kind of wondering, and I don't know if you would know this, if it's like a choice they make mentally because they're that low, or if it just kicks in. Like it's a survival instinct.
I think
to
it just kicks
disassociate.
in. I think it just kicks in.
Okay.
I really think that it's like,
I think
because
it would have to be like, why would you
obviously,
want to
like,
put yourself?
yeah, the average person, like, I mean, you daydream and stuff, like, you know, and like sometimes when you're like, I don't know, like I just think about like sometimes when I'm like in like
Half
a
asleep.
class or something, and I'm just like
Oh, yeah.
thinking about like being somewhere else, and so I'm kind of like mentally detaching myself to somewhere else. I think that it is just like that to such an extreme and like disassociative like level
Yeah.
that they then just like really connect their reality to these like realities that they have like made in their head. I don't think that it's a conscious like I'm stepping in type thing now, that it kind of just like develops. And like people with like developed like alter systems where there'll be like multiple will say that like there's like, oh, this one, the first alter, and this one's been around since like years. This one just popped up one day.
He does that a bit in the movie, but it's still bad.
Yes. Some people will have like different like personality alters just like pop up at like different points and stuff in their lives, and just kind of like out of nowhere. So no, I don't think that it's any conscious thing. And because like none of the personalities are conscious.
It's just so sad because crazy people can lie about it. Like they could.
Yes, that's the thing too. There actually is a lot of controversy in the psychology world of if DID is real. Like a lot of, well, not a lot, I would say there are some.
There could be a generous amount, honestly, just because but there has to be a chemical way to measure it, right? Like put a brain scan or something.
I don't know.
Because otherwise, if it's immeasurable, I get why there is a lot.
A lot of psychologists think that it is just, a little bit faked. I think a lot of people think that it's just some sort of branch of schizophrenia.
Excuse,
maybe. But I don't know. I mean, I'm obviously not APA certified, so I really couldn't tell you. I can pull up the DSM and read you the qualifications, but I think that it's legitimate. I think that there's a lot of people that think they have it and don't, and almost just have
they're just like borderline, or like anxious,
there's a very wide variety of personality disorders. I think that there are probably still a ton that we get to discover. Yeah, because there's still so many people that aren't able to fit into the boxes and stuff that like we have decided
that can give you a prescribed medication.
Diagnoses. I think that it is real that there are a select group of people that do experience it, and I think that it's sad. That has to be a really difficult thing to experience, and it's so rare. Like I think it's something so new that like the medical world has like started to research too, because we just had never really analyzed mental health in the past, and this is a very complex.
We are so early onto it. I kind of forget that just because I feel like, again, we are such old souls. It's crazy that like when we tell people the year we're born, they're like, holy shit, you're so young. Like most like, what the fuck, you're not born in 1980? Like what?
The worst thing too is when it's somebody that's born in like 99 or like 2000.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go because this podcast, we told ourselves that we would talk for less than an hour because we want to go. No, I don't really.
Oh, okay.
Like we kind of covered all of them. Okay. Whatever you want to do.
No, it's fine.
Well, what else? You have something else to say?
No, I don't. I don't have anything more to say. I just had a 20-minute tangent about dissociative identity.
Yeah, we did. Maybe that should just be. I'm gonna make the title "We're Trapped." I think it's so funny. Help, we're trapped. Okay, guys. So we're gonna go make chicken and pasta now.
We got a little bit off topic.
This is my millennial friend. She's trapped in a Gen Z body. So we will probably see you guys next week, as long as we don't get like a crazy trip to like Vegas where like someone flies us out and pays us like $1 million. So we probably won't be back. We'll probably be in Vegas or in Mexico.
We'll just keep manifesting.
And not working our minimum wage job. So love you guys. Be great. Be nice.
Bye.
Smoke a joint. Bye.